Okay, so I'm here at the studio and we're going to go through a few settings that you should be aiming to use in order to maintain the maximum quality in your files. Now, because this is a commercial shoot, I'll need to make sure that the quality of my files is at its best. I will also need to make sure that the model signs a model release, and remember, it's better to do that before the shoot so that they don't change their minds afterwards, which is going to cause you to lose your images. Now, let's talk about camera settings. As I mentioned earlier, when you submit your images to image banks, they go through an inspection process, a review. Now, reviewers will be looking at your image at 100% to check for digital noise and sharpness, amongst other things. And it is important that you take care of that. Anyway, there are settings in the camera that can help you achieve a maximum possible quality for your images. We'll start by discussing two of them, RAW and ISO. So the first thing you want to do is set your camera to shoot RAW. RAW files can withstand a lot more post-production than JPEGs. So even if your files come out great straight out of the camera, it's likely that you need to edit them in post. So choose RAW and give yourself some flexibility. Now, if you are used to shooting with your camera's built-in filters such as black and white, they will not be applied to RAWs. You still see the preview in the back of your camera with the chosen filter. But when you upload the images to the computer, the file will be unprocessed. This means that the original color information will be back in your file, even if you choose to shoot black and white filter. Now, choosing RAW will also ensure that your camera generates the largest files, as it's an uncompressed file format. It's a good thing because you'll be able to license your images to clients that require larger images, so potentially larger royalties as well. The second setting you should be aware of is the ISO. So you might be used to shooting at high ISOs if you haven't been using your work professionally. But remember that for stock, you need to ensure that your files have the highest possible technical quality. So shoot at your lowest ISO, and this will avoid digital noise, which is something that resembles a little like film grain. Digital noise can be reduced in post-production, but only to an extent. Because when you use noise reduction tools too aggressively, your image is going to start looking very, very smudgy and will lose sharpness. So poor ISO can cause excessive digital noise, loss of sharpness, and excessive noise reduction will cause a rejection because of the quality of your files. Now, if you intend to add digital noise to your files intentionally because you want to make your picture look old, for example, I would recommend using Photoshop and add noise controllably there. It is better to add noise in post than creating it by using high ISOs because the results are more under your control than generated in camera. Now, those are the main settings that you should be aware of before you shoot, really, before you start shooting. Of course, you still need to make sure that your image won't be shaken and that your focus is spot on, and that's your job, really. So let's talk about the style of your images in studio. Now, as you're probably aware, you can create pretty much any atmosphere in studio, but sometimes you just want to use a very pure white background, and that's because some clients just want to do whatever they want with the background. Now, subjects that are isolated in white, that's what they're called, are attractive to certain types of buyers because they are easy to use for composites. Now, I'm going to show you how to create a white background. Okay, so the principle of creating a white background is pretty simple. All I need to do is have 2 stops more in the light in the background than the light falling on my model. I also need to have my model quite far from the background so that there's no light spill. At the moment, my model is here at about 5 meters away from the background. Now, the first thing I have to do is decide on what exposure I'm going to use for my model. I have already placed my key light here in the position that I want, and 2 black poly boards here to control that light, and I'm using a beauty dish for this. Now, in this case, I have decided that I want ISO 100, 125th of a second at f8, and those are the settings in my camera there as well, the main camera which I'm going to use, so that the model is properly exposed. Now, that means that if I want a pure white background, I need to have my background at f16, which is 2 stops brighter than f8. So I'm basically overexposing the background so that it blows out completely and becomes pure white. So from f8 I go to f11 and f16, that's 2 stops. I don't want to overexpose, however, the white background by more than 2 stops because there's more chance of light spilling from there to my model here. Now, how can I measure that? The only way I can do this in the studio is by using a light meter, which I have here. So this guy here allows me to enter my ISO, my shutter speed, and it's going to give me the correct f-stop for the settings that I have entered, so the first shutter speed and the ISO when I pop the flash. So let's go ahead and measure the background light in a moment. But first, here's my model. So I'm gonna just leave this on standby, and with my remote, I'm gonna pop the key light, there you go, and gives me precisely f8, which is what I'm looking for. Okay, so let's start measuring the background here. So it's important that I measure different parts of the background to ensure that the amount of light is spread evenly across different areas. So I don't want to have any gradation here. I just want to have the same light intensity. Now, because I don't have a sync cord to go with my light meter, I'm just going to use my remote flash to pop these two lights here and make sure that my light is even across my background. So I'm just going to leave this on standby and start not blocking the light, of course. Start from the bottom here, f16, which is great, is what I'm looking for, 2 stops over my model. This area, f16 again, let's do one more, maybe here, f16, fantastic. So it looks like I have very evenly spread light across my background frame. This picture is going to be on a full screen. Very nice. Now don't look at the camera, look here on the side. Yes, good. One more. That last one was really good. Now try to hold the side of the furry bit. So hold, yeah, exactly. Just bring it out of your face a little bit, as if there were wind from the, yes, there you go, fantastic, hold it. Now look at that side, just here with the eyes. Now face this way, just a little bit, yeah. Open this one, so it's like you want to see a little bit with this eye, but you're still cold, yeah? And turn your face that way, yes. Good. Let's try very close, man. Okay. In case you want a grey background, all you need to do is switch off the lights in the background. So now if I take a picture, we'll have only this light here coming onto the model. So the model is going to be a little brighter than the background, and you have a nice grey background. So only this light here is working now, so I'm going to show you the result. So here, and 1, 2, 3. There you go. It's a nice kind of dramatic background. Okay, so the third setup you can achieve with a very similar setup is a black background. So I changed things a little bit here just because I want to change the exposure slightly. Now I rolled down the black paper, so the black colorama has been rolled down. That means that I already have less light there, obviously because of the color. Now the 2 strip boxes that I was using for the white background before, now they are here on the side, and you see that they are directed to the model. And they are going to form a nice rim light around the model to create some separation. If I don't use these guys here, the shadows where the key light, which is the beauty dish, the shadows created by that, they're going to blend with the background, so you don't know exactly where the subject's going to end and the background begin. So by adding rim lights, you can separate your subject from the background, and it makes it easy to cut out as well if that's what you want to achieve. And black background sometimes is really what you're looking for. Now let's take a light reading of both softboxes. So I need to use my light meter again, and I have the same settings as before, ISO 100 at 125th of a second, and I'm going to see what the f-stop is for this. So pointing the light meter to the strip box, I have f8 on this strip box here. Now the second one, f8 again, and finally here I wanted a bit more light on this one, so I just put it here on the forehead, f11, which is great, but if I go to the face, it should be f8 as well, just a bit over f8, which matches the soft boxes. So now on my camera, what I have is ISO 100, 125th of a second, f11, because I don't want to blow out the top of the fur here, so I just want to overexpose or expose correctly for those and not for the face. So I just want to keep things in everything properly exposed. So let's take a test shot and see what it looks like. So 1, 2, 3, there you go. Perfect, so perfect light, perfect rim light, and a very nice atmospheric image. So with this, the client is going to be able to cut it out or even use it with the background as it is, and just looks really nice.